Hi there, folks. Jeff Withers from the PillarSuccess Hub with you today on the Online Prosperity Show. And wow, I'm excited to be a part of this because I'm looking forward to this show. This Prosper, what a guy. I had a chat with him. He's really cool. And we're going to talk about, I suppose, what happened to me, where I came from, where I am now, and then, what a journey it's been. And the journey's not over. So, hey, why don't you join and we'll catch you on the show. We'll have some fun.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your premium destination for exclusive insights into personal and professional growth. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we've got a truly inspiring guest whose journey really just embodies the essence of transformation and resilience. Now, Jeff, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing really good, and I like how you introduced me. It makes me feel important. Well done. Thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we haven't even started, Jeff. For those that are going to be meeting you, you've transitioned from obviously the spotlight of being a professional musician. You were performing on grand stages and on television, and now you've become a beacon of holistic wellness and intentional longevity. I mean, some of us should be shaking in our boots because we're in the midst of greatness. Yeah, I'm a little bit starstruck, Jeff.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. I don't think that's really quite, accurate. I mean, yes, I've had my time. Yeah, I did some good stuff, but you see, life doesn't stay still, does it? So when that happened, I was enjoying myself. I was going around Australia. We're doing TV shows. That was all lovely. But see, life isn't life's not one adventure. Life's made up of millions of adventures. And the adventures slowed down and stopped. New adventures took off.
I like that. Yeah, and some of the adventures that you're now taking, you're the co-founder of the PillarSuccess Hub. And for those that are going to be learning a little bit more about Jeff, he has harmoniously blended Eastern philosophies with Western methodologies, and he's here to guide individuals towards discovering their innate genius while achieving whole-of-life wellness. But obviously, before we dive into this whole symphony of experiences, I mean, it's quite exciting. Jeff, did you ever find yourself maybe tapping into your musical roots just to help people find the rhythm of life?
Oh, actually, probably not consciously. Let's understand that unconsciously, perhaps consciously, I was doing it so I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed having people enjoy it. I enjoyed when people come up to you and say something good about what you've just done, or you've got several thousand people in front of you having a good time. You're doing something. You're doing something great. I think later in life I learned that there was a much better medium that I ever used, because I was, when you're young, you're stupid. You just do what you do. But listening into shows these days and listening to how the artists talk about your story is important and it motivates people. I thought, man, might have done. I didn't know. Let's be honest about it. When you're a kid, you don't know. But having said that, we did make a lot of noise, so I guess probably did do that. Probably did make a difference to people. It was a long time ago.
Absolutely. That's quite interesting. So tell us a little bit about that part of your life. What was actually happening? Who was the Jeff musician?
He was a guy who, as a kid, played in duos and things, doing all the old-fashioned stuff. The little tiny stuff you play, like Cat Stevens and Simon & Garfunkel. All those, you think it's really cool because you're a kid and it's amazing. And as I got older, I started thinking, I don't mind this being in a band business. And I thought, I'm not a good enough guitarist. I'm never going to make it as a guitarist. I can't sing to save myself. What am I going to do? So I found this little 4-string thing called a bass guitar, and I thought, I can do that. And it seemed to make sense. It just made total sense, and I just took to it quite easily. I did have an advantage. My mother was, when she was a kid, was head on it to be a concert pianist. So somewhere inside the genes, I must have had those genes waiting to be exploited. And it just started to work, and we got a couple of bands together, and we did some good stuff. We ended up in Brisbane here, where I am at the moment, becoming part of a small hub of very successful people and some bands, one of whom had a member you might be aware of, a guy by the name of, never gone blank. what's his name? Big shot country singer, Keith Urban.
Keith Urban. Oh,
Keith Urban.
wow.
So I suspect like he had his band called Rusty Nails Rockets. They were a very good band. We were another band in the same stable, if you like, and so we were sharing venues backward and forward. And I remember at the time seeing him. I never took notice because he was just Keith. He was just another guy, not knowing what he was going to do later in life. But I mean, they're the sort of people we'd hang around with. We'd have special events put on, and we made to feel important. It was all about, when we said about did I motivate other people, it was more like they were making us feel important, which is really an interesting way of the life, that sort of lifestyle. You're made to feel important. Things happen for you. So I can see why a lot of these guys, like these kids on Australian Idol, how they could easily become so caught up in their own egos because they get pampered so much. It's a different lifestyle, and you spend time with the likes of, moving on from there, the likes of people like, John Farnham and Dan Moss, all these people, talking to them as real people. And there's a different world to what they have when they're on stage. There were guys who were just trying to make a living. They were just doing the best they could. So I think the public perception of a so-called famous musician is probably not what the real story is. Sometimes it is, but for most of them, they're just trying to make a living and that's their job. So I think the media hype is quite big. I loved it. I'm doing it again now, actually, just between the humor and the gay posts. We've got a little thing trying to get started again, at my age, for goodness sake, purely for fun, just to get out there and make some noise and see if we can still do it, But it's interesting. It certainly was a period of time which was just amazing. We did a show up here in the Piazza, for example, with a band called Carrie Lloyd and Rara Gin, which up in here was quite a famous band in their day. And I was part of it, and we were spoiled rotten. They put the show on for us. They paid us $1 million, so to speak. We had food given to us. We had all the publicity. And I thought, this is the life. This is the life. You can't get better than this. Well, it did, but I didn't think it did at the time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with all this stuff that was happening, what was a typical week like for you? If you can just maybe pinpoint the highlights, just so we can see what the behind the scenes was like. If maybe the person who's watching this was one of your roadies, what would they experience?
They were told to do their job. No, well, in the beginning it's different, but as we got, with the gin, etc., as it got bigger that way, really again. The lifestyle was quite simple. I mean, that's what you did. So, rehearsals were a big thing. You're always rehearsing. They didn't stop. Or you'd be seeing somebody doing something, or you're writing something, or trying to record something. It's not like, this weekend we're going to go and play on a stage. It's just like, what are we doing? What needs to happen next? Who are we talking to? What's going on? So it's a business, and we were lucky because we had management that was at that level. So we didn't do much that way. It was always done for us. So they would say, you're doing this, or we're going to be here, you're going to go there, But at the same time, you are the person and you are the band. And so you've got to have that responsibility because, we go somewhere to do something at an event and there's a camera shoot going on. And you see, there's people say, that's so-and-so. That's them. And you think, wow, that's cool. But then other way around is they expect us to be something. You stop being an ordinary person. They expect you're that band or you're that person. Particularly those high up the ladder than I ever was. You expect it, so the pressure is enormous. You can't just be an ordinary person. Once you get up to the ladder, you're on show totally. So, so you had to have my hair was much longer, by the way. It was 3 times longer than this in the day. Earrings and all the tricks. How you dress up because that's what people want. They wanted to see someone who was that's a character. There's something they're not. That's really what it is. It's something that they weren't, and they'd like perhaps to be or like to know it, but they weren't that person.
What does that do to the individual? I mean, obviously, yes, it's all nice and everything else, like you're saying, the glitz and the glam and the being looked after and people wanting autographs and being taken photos of you, but you being a character that you keep saying, we were talking to these people like normal blokes and they only were just trying to make a living, but when they're on stage, they're a whole different persona. And, what does that do to someone?
For some, it can make them very much ego-driven and very much lose touch with reality. And that's a simple fact of life. Some of it, and fun enough, it's the ones that don't get to the top that become more likely to become full of their own importance. I think guys who get to the top and stay at the top long term appreciate what they've achieved and they appreciate the success they've had. So for me as a person, see, I'm not a very outgoing person. So I was happy playing my bass because I was not the front person. But at the same time, there was nothing more exciting than to walk onto a stage for 1,000 people in front of you, which happened many times, thousands of people, and you walk on a stage and they're there to watch you. So it's a great sense of achievement, But that little story is funny. One of the many things that sticks out to me is being a person on stage. Yes, one day we had all these people in front of us, and we had the different crew. We had some extra crew there. And I don't even know this guy's name, but his job apparently was looking after me. And so we'd finished and they're just moving gear about because, that was what they do. And he kept asking, he said, I love your rig. What's this rig do? And I love how you play the guitar there. I like what you did with this. That was more valuable to me than all the people in front saying nice things. Because he was a real person who had an interest in music, asking me questions about what it was like to do what I just did. So even to this day, I remember that to this day because I just thought, wow. He got in trouble. He got roused on by the stage manager because you're supposed to get a job to do, get that gear off. I'm thinking, hang on, this kid's a really cool kid. He obviously wants to do something like this. He wants to ask people, what's it like? How did you do that? And so I think that, again, it's important.
Could that have been, Jeff, that this kid was asking you not as a celebrity or as a pop star, but as human being, and that connection would have actually resonated with you a lot more because you would know that those people that are screaming and shouting at you, if you would walk to them and maybe ask for help, they wouldn't maybe do the same.
Yeah, because I think I've got the picture in my head now of that particular event, and it's like many times, like the audience forward, they're just there. It's like having a screen in front of you, but see, on that stage, it's a different world. So it was like a real person talking to a real person, yeah. Being on stage, I was never an actor, but I've ridden around them enough times as well. Being on stage is not on show from their point of view. You are presenting to somebody, but it's a blank wall to my mind, and that's the people over there, and this is your world here. And so this was a guy who was asking about something of another person because he respected what that person had done and wanted to know what was done, so what could he do? Could he do the same thing in a sense, So those sorts of examples to me, it's funny, that stuck with me the whole time. They've stayed in my head because it made you feel good. I mean, you can have people cheer all the day long at you. That means nothing. That doesn't mean a thing. But when someone comes up to you personally and wants to talk to you with a proper reason to talk to you, then it's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. Now, you transitioned from being a musician to becoming a psychologist. Was that a personal journey that was manifesting in the form of wanting to help others, or what was the reasoning behind that?
That's an interesting one. When I was at school, and they didn't have school back in those days, even then, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I always wanted to be a teacher for some silly reason. And I became a teacher straight up. I was teaching when I was still 19 because I went straight through and did it. So I guess I always had this, I want to teach people. I never thought about it that way. So obviously, as things moved along, that became important to me. I wanted to, I didn't want to become a psychologist. I didn't think about that at all. But what happened was, and this is a true story, I went to do a second degree in business. I was still teaching at the time, way back. And I wanted to do a second degree in business. And I found the subject about staff development and people learning stuff and being looked after in the workplace. And at that time, they said, psychologists are normally brought in to do this. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I might do that unit. And then it got me interested, so I did another unit. And the uni said to me, I wrote me a letter saying, you've now gone this far with your psychology, you've got to your limit if you have to now stop doing those and do business or change faculty. And that's how it happened. I changed faculty. So it wasn't like I had a conscious decision. It was pushed into it. But boy, it was a good decision because it just made perfect sense. I thought, now I'm where I need to be. Well, I wasn't, but I thought I was where I needed to be because now I was doing what I always had in the back of my head, is to work with people, help people do something. You know, people are coming. Honestly, I'm going to say something. I might upset people, but people are not very smart, and it's not their fault. They've been taught not to be smart. They've been taught to rely on somebody else or some expert or some authority from a very early age. They've been taught this, that someone will do it for me. Someone will have this ready for me. Someone will have the answer. Right. So, and I found that in psychology. I didn't last in psychology all that long as a psychologist because I got frustrated. I didn't think it didn't seem to be the career for me because it seemed to be, from what I was hearing, was it's the same old questions. There's a manual that has the disorders. Which one do you fit into? All right, that's who you are. See me for so many weeks, so much money per week, for so many sessions, and we'll be right. And I think, well, what if I could make a difference to somebody in one session, in 1 hour? Isn't that more important? And that's how I started to say, you know what? And that's when we started looking at a bigger picture, because to me, psychology wasn't really, the concept is great. It's human behavior, it's human thinking and all that sorts of business. But how they were doing it, and it's still to say, did not and does not resonate with me. I find it impossible to say, I can read a manual, DSM 5 or 6 now, whether I might call it now, I forget the latest version, and it says, you have disorder XYZ. So everybody on this planet that exhibits some of those characteristics must have that disorder. And I'm thinking, that can't be possible because everybody's different. No one's the same. So how can you make a classification about human behavior that fits across all this spectrum? And how can I make this person come back and talk to me every week for so many weeks, knowing fully well that I'm not going to make a difference to them in the long run anyway? So that's when psychology stopped being important by itself. So.
Absolutely. And I can only imagine, I mean, you're coming from a place where you get that instant feedback. If you're doing something good to a crowd, they would scream, shout, and yell. Whereas, you're not getting that sort of recourse in terms of having to speak to this person. And I like how you said, if you can fix somebody in 1 hour, why would you book them for many sessions? That's just like maybe an album or a song. There's some, if somebody would just listen to one song, they could actually put it on repeat and get, whatever information they want from it and, or emotion they want from it.
You probably can. And I use 9 questions. There are quite often 9 questions you can ask yourself. And if you use those 9 questions, that's the answer to everything. For every situation scenario, there are 9 questions you could ask, right? And you answer them according to the scenario, situation at that time, that particular thing happening. If you answer those 9 questions, you'll get an answer. You don't have to spend hours doing it. You don't need to go to a psychologist to do that. That's straightforward, using your own brain.
So by these 9 questions, you're talking about 9 pillar genius.
No. 9 pillars different. This is just 9 simple questions. And the questions, they're already. The questions like, for example, why? Why am I thinking this? Why am I doing this? Why is this happening? Because why is a big question. Why starts the mind thinking? All right? Then you might have a question, what is happening? What am I going to do? So the why and the what. Who is going to help me? For whom am I going to be able to turn to? When will it happen? Where will it happen? What if it, or how will it happen? What if it doesn't? What if it does? What do I do next? All these questions in a sequence, you can address to anything that ever happened to you. And by answering those questions, you will find an answer.
So similar to the who, what, when, what, how type scenario, that if you would put that even in a marketing scenario, you would literally know who you're speaking to and who you are to be the person speaking that. And that actually works to break apart someone?
Yeah. Because it's not just the who, it's for whom. So who and for whom are slightly different. But the really big questions are at the end, the what if and what next. This is where people don't go there, including business people. Well, I've done something, that's great. What if it worked? What happens next? What if it didn't work? What should I do? So these are, so in other words, it forces you to move forward and think ahead, because thinking intelligently doesn't mean to got a solution now and stop. It means I've got the solution now. How will it work tomorrow? What will happen next week? What will happen next month? Which is the what if, what next type question, making you think that, you're not living in a bubble. The world's not going to stop happening around you. If I buy a car today, it's not going to be brand new tomorrow. It's going to be a second hand. It's not the brand new car anymore. So I can't look at it like a brand new car, etc. So these questions help the person to just get this picture in their head and move forward. And I often say to people, we need a future vision, and write this future vision based on that idea as well. So with these questions and the answers, what will that give you next? Which is another question you could ask. What will that give you? Or give me, depending who's asking the question.
That's you asking people to take ownership there, Jeff.
Yes,
take
absolutely.
ownership of their results and everything else that comes along with it. And that's a bit scary.
Why? Because you haven't been asked to before? Because you can do it. Except you were told all your life you can't do it. I call it a deferred responsibility syndrome. It's a Western mishap that says that from day one, we're told that somebody will do it for us, somebody will make it happen. I can rely on somebody else to do it for me. I didn't have to read that book or watch that video for more than 30 seconds because they told me I didn't have to, because people don't look that long anymore. So we're hearing this rubbish all the time. So it's okay to not have ownership. But the one thing that Maria, my partner, and I work on most of the people, if anything, is empowerment and self-responsibility. You can do it. You can think it, you can create it, but only if you keep in mind what you have the skills to do. Right? For example, if you said to me, if you train really hard at swimming, you could win an Olympic 100-meter freestyle event. Well, that's never going to happen because I can't swim. I paddle and splash. Mm-hmm. So that would never happen. So no point telling me that. But if you said you can achieve understanding the role of the I Ching, which is another story again, but I can do that because I can research, I can learn, I can understand it, and I can do something and then make use of it. So the thing is, people are so used to giving ownership of their journey to somebody else, including a psychologist. You'll do it for me. I strictly speak to people. I said, I want you, and that's where the 9 pillar concept comes from. Take ownership of your own existence. Don't rely on somebody else, because if you do that, A, you'll know what you need to do, but B, you also know when you do need to ask for help. You've got the intelligence to know when you need to ask and the questions you need to ask when that time comes. So it's not like you're saying, I'm never going to associate with a specialist or a doctor or something. It just means that I don't run to them because I've got a sniffle. I don't run to them because I've got a sore foot, or I want to change my weight, or whatever it might be. I run to them when I see there's a problem that I can't solve with my knowledge. But so I know I need to ask.
You would understand, Jeff, that all that is systemic. You know what I mean? Like the whole system depends on people depending on it. And obviously for somebody who, like yourself, would have seen it from the other side, looking at the masses that are just, excited about music that you're creating, and you've been doing this all the time. To them, it's new. To you, this is maybe yet another practice session, but this time with an audience. And
but maybe it's not new for them. Maybe they play a guitar, maybe they play a music instrument, but not as good, or not had their chance yet. So, just because I'm doing it on stage, no stage, and they weren't, doesn't mean they couldn't do it. It just means they didn't do it yet. All right? Your life is full of things you haven't done yet.
Yet is the operative word there.
Yet is the operative word. And for most people, that yet will never happen, and they'll accept that. They'll be happy because that's what they know. When you start poking the bear, so to speak, and you realise what can happen, you become very impatient that you want it. It's very much an infectious thing, at least from our point of view anyway. You start poking the bear and the bear's going to hit you back and say, okay, you talk about this, what are you going to do about it? Right? Give an example. One thing we did way after music finished, my better half, Marie, who is an incredible person, she's an amazing person, that's not the point, don't tell her I said that. But she was one of the top ballroom dancers in the country, right? And she was doing very well, and they were on the verge of becoming Australian champions, and her partner pulled out. Had enough, frustrated, couldn't do it. So her and a coach looked for 12 months around Australia to find a replacement partner, couldn't find one, and they then turned to me and said, you know music, therefore you can dance. I said, I can't dance. I've never danced in my life. But so you're going to learn. So in less than 12 months, I walked on a dance floor in Canberra in a national title at the highest level. Wow. Now, I didn't do very good. I didn't do very good at all, but I did it. And I learned very quickly when I stopped trying to feel uncomfortable, right? When I said, they expect me to do this, they anticipate I'll do da-da-da, go with the flow, it changed. So therefore, if you had said to me as a kid, do you want to dance? No. When I was adult, you want to dance? No. I was forced into it, discovered it, embraced it, took on the challenge, and did it. Now, it doesn't make me special. It just means I did it.
Wow. Now, with all of this, I mean, you've managed to integrate Eastern philosophies and Western philosophies. Could that have emanated from that? Because in certain philosophies, there's no either or. When somebody, like you're saying, when I was growing up, if somebody tells you, asks you, can you dance? You'd say no, and that's it. You know, exactly. You wouldn't be given an option of yet or things of that nature. Maybe you can, explain to us this whole fusion that you now possess.
Well, the fusion was quite simple, and we thank COVID for that. It was COVID that made the difference for us, because we're doing our different things. Marie's an interior designer and other bits and pieces, and we've done a lot of work in profiling in a different system we don't use anymore, but we did. So we got introduced to all this, and it was going well, but the COVID stopped everything. So when that came along, we had to make some decisions. There was no money to be made. We couldn't get out and do anything. So we said, well, okay, let's just explore what we've done. Let's explore what could we do. Because part of our journey was we got ripped off very badly by a person, which led us very, very much. A six-figure income, a six-figure amount was taken. And we felt sorry for ourselves for quite a while. And then we worked out that that's really stupid, because I now thank that person in the sense that I'm out of pocket, but I would never be doing what we're doing now if she hadn't done that to us in the first place. Because we were forced into thinking differently, and COVID came along not long afterwards, basically. And we said, what are we going to do? So Marie said to me, she said, because of the design background, I've always wanted to study feng shui. And I'm thinking, feng shui, what's that? I've heard of it. Oh, if you want. So she researched it, found the most perfect person to learn from, and has achieved it. She's now one of the most highly qualified feng shui people in the country here. And when we were doing that, he was then talking about, he said he goes into, he also does a lot of healing nutritions and longevity, cultural type stuff. I said, that's interesting. And we were talking about it until the penny dropped. Here's a secret source of life, the three treasures, right? Treasure one is you, and I call it your unique personability, not personality, personability, right? Which is the ability to be the person you choose to be. You've got control over that. So that's the treasure one, right? Second treasure is your living environment, which is your home and your work. How are you living? What's home like for you? Is it a place you want to be? Is it a place you feel comfortable in? Is it supportive? Does it flow? Has it got energy? Is it reflective of you as a person? Right? So that's important. And the third treasure is your wellness, your personal wellness. Yeah, and I don't mean like going on light and easy or going to the gym. I mean proper wellness and well-being. There's a big, big, big difference that most people don't get. So they're three clear treasures. But here's the thing. When we worked out, a treasure is a treasure. And if I was a pirate, I would like that treasure to be kept and grown, wouldn't I? So if I got a treasure and I stick it in the ground and I forget about it, it's going to just wear away and do nothing. If I make use of it and use it too much, it's going to go away because I've worn it out. If I accept it, cherish it, nurture it, it will grow and support me. So when you plug in these three treasures, understand that life is about these three treasures, right? And you nurture those three treasures, then you accept them, you will start to see a difference in how you think, right? And how you think creates how you do. How you do creates who you become.
So are you saying if I just keep reading this book, I might just turn out to be one of the...
No, because I can tell you now that book was probably written by somebody in the Northern Hemisphere. It was probably written for the American concept of feng shui. It was probably written for the masses. And it probably will have nothing more than a decorator's guide to what they call feng shui, which is not feng shui at all. There's a massive, massive, massive difference between the power of true feng shui and what you've read in the book, including where you live in the world as well. It's a whole different conversation, but trust me, it's powerful. It's very, very powerful. And the least most effective thing is, where should I put my painting? Where should I? Well, I'll put some money in that corner so I'll get rich. That's fair stuff.
That's what I wanted you to bring up, because so many people would just do the minimum and think, well, this doesn't actually work, but yet there's quite a lot. But let's just dive back a little bit. You mentioned facing a significant setback from a trusted business connection. I mean, can you maybe share how this experience reshaped your path and actually then led you to the creation of the business that you have now?
But that's the thing. See, I was actually at that stage going back. I was teaching, and the psychology was happening. There was a transition going on. Marie was working for the police department up here, so we were doing well fine. The money was there. We were having a good life, so to speak. And this person who I knew, because I studied my NLP through her as well, so I trusted her as a person of integrity. And she said, "I've got this happening overseas. This guy so and so. I never heard of the guy, but I won't mention his name. But I mean, you'd know the name." And he said, and I've got the opportunity, if you want to work with us, to be the master license holders for Australia. And of course, Maria and I sat back and talked about it. I think, this is like, here we go. It's finally happening. The adventure has begun. All the things that we wanted to do has been given to us in a platter. We have to grab this. Now, because we were, naive people, obviously very naive, it came with a figure of money. And she said, I need first up 50,000 so you can be part of it. So I go, here's 50,000. And it built from there. So, but as it went along, there was no company, there was no intention to go forward with it. It was literally a scam of its own, which was identified quickly by the police as well and everyone else, but it was too late. We'd given money and we'd given it 2 more times after, and they said, well, you gave money, you benefited because you were part of it, therefore we can't look at a guaranteed conviction, she gets away with it. And we were stuck. That was the change point. We've just lost over $160,000 all up. She's got it somewhere. She's never going to give it back. She doesn't care less. What are we going to do? So that was the change point. That was where we said, my God, what are we going to do? And so when we stopped feeling sorry for ourselves, we started thinking and we said, okay, we're in this community. Let's get involved. So we went overseas. We did the conferences. We did the work with these people. And we became known and accepted and respected. That was great. That was pre-COVID. And that was the next setback. So we'd actually overcome the fact we had lost all this money. We were being accepted into a community of amazing people. There's no question of that. They're amazing. But then COVID came, that slowed that down. And that's when we realized what we were actually doing with this guy really wasn't complete. He hadn't done the full picture, like most people. And we said, we can't do that. And that's when the feng shui came along. But we also studied I Ching and 5-element theory and all these things. And we wrote our own profiling system from scratch to a much different level, a whole different level to what you will see in the marketplace in general. And so, wow, look, we've just done this. And, a few books later and a few more programs, a few more this, a few more that. And it all came out of that time frame of a few years that, looking back, would never have happened if that didn't get done to us like it did.
Some people say life happens to you, not necessarily. I mean, life happens for you, not necessarily to you. And some of these things are designed to put you on to the next thing and to the next level and things of that nature. Now, you went on and created the 9-pillar genius profile and it's now become the cornerstone of your methodology. Maybe you can explain to us the biggest win that you actually got, because yes, it costed you what, 6 figures to come up with this, so might as well hear about it.
Yeah, man. Well, it hasn't made us any money. We still haven't got the money back and we still haven't got any money in the bank, but we don't care, because we worked out that if you do what you love and you've got enough money to pay your bills, that's all you need. This money hungry chasing of, I've got to have assets, I've got to have money in the bank, I've got to have the latest car, you might die tomorrow. What was the point? Why not just have enough to live your life and enjoy your life? And so the 9-pillar concept, it's got nothing to do with any program as such, but it came through brainstorming thinking. I said, well, there are 9 things in life you need to achieve or have addressed if you want to have a good life. And so what are these 9? So we started off thinking in general terms. I won't mention them separately, but basically at the bottom level is exactly who are you? So what are the characteristics you were born with in the first place? Because we're all born with a certain set of characteristics, some of which from the genes, obviously, the heritage from the family. Others come from the, what we call the moment of first breath. This is the eastern side coming in, and it makes sense because when you are attached to the umbilical cord, you are still part of the mother. But when that cord is broken and you have your first breath, you are now an independent person in this world. So what was the energy around you at the time like? Quantum physics has proven that energy is real, so we can't even deny that anymore. So you're born with a certain suite of characteristics. So there's your first part of your pillars. Who are you? Second part is who have you learned to become? because then your mother and father took over and you started learning things from them unconsciously. So that's the bottom line. Who are you? What are your characteristics? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are you good at? What aren't you good at? What have you learned to do? And you do that probably to a large extent till age 7, 8, and 9. You're doing that all the time. As you get older, you're so more consciously learning stuff because you're trying to please somebody or trying to get that job or get that girl or guy, whatever it might be. That's your foundation, which is your first treasure, your first nobility. That's who you are. But then you're going to start looking at, where's my environment around me? You know, and where am I living? How am I feeling about my physical surroundings? Am I in the right place? Maybe I even shouldn't even be in this country. Maybe it's not where I feel comfortable. Maybe I should move. Maybe I should change the people I hang around with. So how are these things reacting to me? Are they causing me to move and change my thoughts? So I have to be aware of that and get in charge of it. And that leads on then, therefore, from the environmental side of things, is to say, how am I showing up in this place? And that comes back to what you do, how you think. Like, for example, a kid that goes to McDonald's 3 days a week is giving a clear statement of their self-respect towards their food and their bodily health. Whether they like it or not, they're giving themselves permission to be who they are. And that's going to come back and bite them. Or I could be a person that says, I'm very healthy because I eat salads every day. Well, that won't help you either, because that's not enough information about the body type you've got and about the types of things, how the organs work and how you need to supply health to those organs. So when you start doing that, you've now got, this is me as a person. Here's the world I live in. Here's how I choose to engage with that world. So there's 3 tiers. And when I've achieved that, I've then got the final step, which is total clarity and harmony and, if you like, longevity. Because I've now addressed, like a pyramid, like the old-fashioned pyramid. My base is who I am. My midsection is the world I live in. The third section is what I choose to do to fine-tune that to make it work for me. So tell me how many people in this world right now think that way?
Not a lot, because everybody, like you said, is, taught not to think for themselves. They're just going to be thinking if they have an ailment or a sneeze or something of that nature, then somebody with a white jacket would have something for them. And it's usually not in their best of interest. Jeff, I don't know if you've ever heard the story of the lobster and how it grows. So apparently a lobster is this soft, mushy animal, and it's got an external skeleton, right? But the skeleton doesn't grow in proportion to the soft, mushy animal inside. So whenever the soft, mushy animal grows, it actually has to shed that skeleton and it's left soft. All right. And then it now grows a bigger skeleton. And when that is happening, it has to be in hiding and things of that nature. And there's, a comparison to humans, that if humans were like, lobsters, they would maybe go and find a more permanent solution to that, or get some sort of fix which doesn't perpetuate their own growth, and they would stifle their own growth just so that they don't have to go through that process themselves.
Or they can band together and support each other. So 2 or 3 people together can watch each other backs, can't they? So there's your external shell while you're growing it, so to speak, because you've got someone watching your back for you. You're working as a bond, right? Which is something the West has lost as well. Valuing the family, valuing the persons close to you, and respecting them and being a part of them moving forward, as opposed to, let me just go make my own mistakes. I'm going to be who I want to be. Well, that's the lobster without the shell, I should think, wandering around the ocean floor, wondering why it's getting attacked. Whereas the smart ones are saying, let's group together and let's support each other and learn from each other and value each other. To me, that's like a little cone that you're safe inside when you grow. So I like that lobster story. I must keep that. I like that idea.
Absolutely. I mean, Jeff, I'm coming from a place where we exercise Ubuntu. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, which basically is I am because you are. It's a concept that really makes people unite in who they're becoming and how they help each other and collaborate and things of that nature. Now, if you come to the first world, obviously in the Western world, there's individualism. Everyone has their own phone, have their own car, have their own everything. So, I go into my car, I shut shut myself in. That's my little world. I look at my own phone. I watch my own screen. I've got a whole big house by myself. There's no collaboration that is, sort of fostered around. Now, if people are feeling stuck or uncertain about their path and they've never learned how to extend themselves to other people, what sort of initial steps would you maybe recommend they could start their journey into self-discovery and fulfillment?
Well, there's a million ways, but my favorite at the moment that we're going to be launching shortly, and I'm not going to make this an ad, but anyway, I've got this term that's come to my head the other day. It's called Unleash Your Superpower. Unleash your superpower, which means the very thing is, yes, you've got this, like you said, you've got these things around you, you think you're safe and secure. Find out who you are. Have the, excuse the French, but have the guts to find out who you are first. Don't pretend you know who you are, because you may not be aware. Find out who you are, accept who you are. There's your first step that people don't do. People live in that shell again. Like, I'm really cool, I've got this and I do this. But the reality is maybe you don't. So find out who you are. And that's what we do with the assessments first. We find out who you are. Firstly, the person you were born to be. Secondly, the person you've chosen to become in life. And it's an eye-opener for people. They don't realise. They can't believe the power of it. So we go through a lot of stuff. It's quite a complex process. But that's so important. You can't do anything. See, you go to, I'm going to mention some names like Myers-Briggs and DISC, all these profiling systems people talk about. They're not doing any favours. They're an end product that someone reads and puts in a drawer. When we talk about profiling, we're talking about an optimization system, a life optimization system. Everything starts from that profile, not ends. Because once you've understood more about yourself, you're now on a path, set a path to learn more and move forward. You can make conscious decisions. You can make, desires and goals known to yourself that you probably weren't aware of before. Like make some plans, make some understandings of who you were and who you've become. Right? Because most of us have got things happening that don't even realize who they are. And you say something to them, and they'll say, oh, well, yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, I do like doing that, don't I? You always did, but you forgot because you're so busy doing something else. So that's the first thing you have to do. Find out who you are, right? It's so important. And then we can start to break it down. Then the next step is to find out how your life has influenced that development of that who you are, what's happened around you to cause who you are. Right? Then we can start to build you based on what you want to be. So you can be as much connected to your natal self as possible, the person you're born to be, or you can be as much who you want to be. It's your choice. You're a human being. Make some decisions, but be committed to it. So build the person and then live that life from that point on. You've now changed. You're a person with awareness and knowledge, right? Like I said before, how many people go around thinking about the three treasures, but once you've thought about it and once you see it in action, you can't not think about it. Because now you're seeing life away from the mechanical world of, I get up, I get my truck, I drive to work, I push the tractor about, or I do what I do, I come home at night, have a beer, and go to bed and do it again tomorrow. Suddenly you're asking yourself and seeing things about a human that you should have thought about, but you hadn't thought about it because it was out of your world of existence, your map of the world, if you like. Because now you're thinking as a person who are what I call human-centric genius, right? Or consciousness. You're now thinking about you as a person in a life, in an environment, not some guy who gets out of bed in the morning and goes to a job and comes home at night. It's two different people, right? Most people are too scared to do that because that could feel confronting to them. However, is it not more confronting to never find out? So, think about that.
Because it's like a mirror, you start seeing the real you and who you are. And I like how once you've done that, it makes it easy for you to also be compatible to other people outside. And I notice you've done the same with your partner, Mari. You guys have pioneered, obviously, a holistic approach to human genius. I mean, how do you guys manage to do that without fighting?
Oh, we fight. But it's not serious. But okay, she's Italian, all right? So there's the first clue. She can get fired up, but she lets it go really quickly. When she realizes that I was right anyway. Once she understands I was always right, we get on well. But no, we get on pretty good because, and people say to us, how can you live and work together? Well, it's not that hard. Because if you share the same interests, the same passions, then you're at a like place. we're supporting each other. We'll sit down, have a glass of wine at night, and I'll throw something at her, and she'll say, well, back at me. So, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. So our conversations aren't like, well, maybe tomorrow I should buy some more groceries. Our conversation's about, this is important. We should bring this into play somewhere. How can we make this work for somebody? And we think about those sort of things. So, yeah, it's if you have a partner and you want to work with that partner and live with that partner, it's not hard. What's hard is when you choose not to want to work with them because you want to be your own person. Oh, she doesn't like what I do. Well, then if she doesn't like what you do, what's she doing there in the first place? She must have liked it, otherwise she wouldn't be there. Therefore, find out what you do well together and what you like together. We have separate offices too, by the way. We do keep separate offices. So we've got our own space in that sense. But I mean, I come up with ideas in my head, we should look at so-and-so. And she says to me, well, that won't work, you should do this. Oh, yeah, you're right, we should. So there's that working partnership all the time. I don't know where all this has come from. We've got so many models and things we're writing now. And I can tell you that if you'd asked me this 10 years ago, I'd have said, no, I know what you're talking about. It would never happen. But looking back, it's amazing. You know, and I'm so proud of it. I mean, nobody much of the world knows about us because we're the quiet persons that, you know, we're not a big company, so no one hears us. But I'm so proud of what we've achieved. I'm so proud and so excited. Look what we've come up with. Look at these concepts. You know, wow, where did that come from? And it keeps happening. Even the last few days, it's changed again. You know, because I'm thinking, I'm reacting, I'm a person, I'm in the world. I don't go and keep myself narrow focused anymore. I just look and listen and think. And, you know, it's amazing what the mind can do when it's allowed the scope to do it, when you give it freedom to become who it could be. You know, it's a changed world.
Absolutely. I mean, in my culture, we've got a statement: if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. And that literally is being embodied by what it is that you're producing there. Now, for those that are intrigued by maybe your approach and maybe just looking to learn a little bit and working with you, etc., what's the best way for them to maybe connect with you and get more of the 9 Pillar Success Hub?
Well, I mean, I could offer a website, but we're just rebuilding it, so that's not up at the moment. So probably right now it's the Facebook or LinkedIn, I should think, is the easiest ways, because then, you know, I'm very reactive. If someone sends a message, I try to get back virtually straight away. Well, I'd love to talk to people. Email, which is in the I'd say the Facebook groups and the LinkedIn pages are the best to access right now. Which I don't know if you've got them all.
I've got all those links and I will add them in the show notes below so that people can actually start utilizing them and things of that nature. But Jeff, when we started, and thank you so much for offering, you know, an opportunity for people to get in touch. When we started this conversation, you introduced us to this rock star who was doing amazing things on stages, you know, TV and all that stuff, who was, as you said, having fun at the time and didn't quite know what life would have been like, et cetera, et cetera. And then you were faced with this prospect of being a psychologist, and then you realize, wait a minute, this is not what I'm cut out for. Not a lot of people have that vision that early on. They would have just done it and then maybe figured out a little bit later on and stuff like that. What sort of advice would you give to somebody who's struggling to balance maybe personal growth, professional demands, all of those things that are required, because bills have to be paid in the end? You know what I mean? It's not going to just fix itself.
I think the honest advice to my mum, but I would say to anybody, is don't be afraid. Don't be scared of what you might discover if you actually look. No one said you can't go. Like Marie goes in as a job as well because of the cash flow. So is that being afraid? No, that's being realistic, right? So don't be afraid. There's always a way to, if you have to pay bills and have to do stuff like we all do, you can do that. But don't become caught in that world where that's all you think about. Be able to think, relax. It's okay to think outside the box. It's okay to have dreams and visions. You know, it's okay to be human. And I think and women get this better than guys, obviously. Guys have to be the big macho hero. But To me, and there's so many different life enhancement strategies. You mentioned a couple before, there's other ones we use as well. Bottom line is, you don't have to go, I need to become good at this, I better learn a course. Sometimes all it takes is a way of thinking, right? Let yourself think, let yourself imagine, let yourself believe. Simple as that. Let yourself believe. With the understanding, it may never happen. Because otherwise you're going to be disappointed sometimes, right? I didn't ever imagine being what I am now. I believe in myself now. But I don't see myself being a world-famous expert. Who cares? Because I let myself learn and grow, and I've got what I've got. I'm happier now than I was, back in the old music days. I'm much happier because I'm doing something that makes a big difference to me personally, not to mention hopefully other people. But if I want to put my head in the sand and I want to be who I am, and what I know is right because that's what I was taught, and I hear it every day, from reactions to people. And I'm thinking, I just feel these days I just grin and I think, okay, it's going to happen anyway. You're just not going to be aware of it when it happens. It's going to happen anyway. You'll just miss the opportunity when you see it. Because see, luck is not what people think it is, right? There's two things. First of all, luck from the point of view of the I Ching and the Chinese philosophy of the day is about, no, it's not fortune telling, it's about foretelling the future. Understand yourself, understand the energy around you, understand that if I don't fit in with that and I don't have the decision to work with the energy that I've got, energy around me at the same time, I may find it difficult to get my goals. That's the first type of thing, it's foretelling. If I know this, I can have that. So know thyself. Right? And accept thyself. There's a bit biblical too, that might know thyself. The other one, for example, is right here where we live. Long story cut very short, we were years ago now, we're going to build a house together, first house together when we got together. And we've had the land, we've gone through the council plan, everything to go, and we went down to this area, which it's a canal estate. And we thought, I wonder if that gets like another one of these floods and the high tides and all that sort of stuff you hear about because it's raining. And we came down, and right on the very foreshore, right on the edge of the bay, were these blocks with canals behind them. And I'm thinking to Ray, I said, wow, I didn't know this was here. And I jokingly said, this is a true story, it's a long time ago, but I said to her, if these blocks are $200,000 each, we should sell the block we got right now and we should buy one. Because I had in my head thinking, they're going to be 300,000 or 400,000. I know they are, I'm just being cool here. She'll think I'm nice and helpful, but I know it's not going to happen. Went round to the little sales office there, and he said $200,000 on the nose. And that comes with pontoons in a private area, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I said to Mary, I said, oh, what are we going to do? Now, the luck was coming down that day when we had no attention. Everything else from there is all to do with what we did with the so-called luck, right? Being prepared to look out and see. We bought the block of land. We sold another block of land in less than a week and made a profit on that. We changed the plans to make the house fit what we wanted to do here. We built the house. Now, if I told you the current value of the house, which I won't because it's embarrassing, but let's just say that luck turned into a very big return.
Wow. Because you held yourself in that position and took action because...
We took action. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't put my head in the sand and say, that won't work. I was trying to because that was me in the day. Oh, this won't work. This is not going to be that price. We'll be safe. I can't do this. But I tried. And of course, when it didn't happen, when it was the price, I was left with a decision. What am I going to do? And I took the decision I thought was right long term. And it was right. If we had a lot of money out of it one day, if we were to sell, there's our retirement fund waiting for us if nothing else ever happened. Don't want to sell. But the point I'm getting at is, if I'd have said to Marie, oh yeah, that won't work, we can't do that. Look, we got the house, it's starting to be built soon, we can't do it now. Oh yeah, you're right, it doesn't matter, it was a good idea. Then our life from that point on would have been different. If only because we're in a different place, different environment, who knows what would have happened. I mean, how many alternate future pathways exist anyway, who knows? So I always remember that as a luck. First luck is take advantage, take action if you see something. If it doesn't work out, so what? You try it. Second thing is, if you know yourself and you know the energy around you, and we can help people do that because that is part of what we're doing, we can then say, okay, you can do what you want to do, but be mindful this could happen. you might feel this, you might get opposition from that. If you know that, you can make adjustments so it'll still work. So you're taking control of your life, you're doing something. So therefore, the whole box of advice to people is, first of all, have an open mind, be able to be free to let what happens happen. And then take the action you think works from that point on. That's your decision as a human being. And this is something I really believe, because I'm the most non-woo-woo person in the world, right? We both are. We don't believe in the so-called woo-woo crap. It doesn't exist. That's for people that think they're clever, right? The real people, the ones that take the time to study and learn, know it's not woo-woo, it's actual science. And so when we talk about energy and we talk about, a person's behaviors and how it matches to different energies, we're coming from a place of learning and knowing. We've done it enough times now. We've done enough work with people to know it works 100% every time. So therefore, have the knowledge, have the skill and the ability to let go and explore, have the knowledge and the confidence to use the tools to then use what you've learned to get what you want. Right?
Interesting. Now, Jeff, I mean, obviously, we could go on, and things like this are quite interesting to me and all that stuff. But we've explored where you've been, we've explored what you're working on. What's next? What can we expect in the future from you, Jeff?
Well, right now we're working on this new program with somebody in Tasmania, believe it or not. If it works, we can expect to hopefully have a global service running in the next few months, which we're going to be working with, hopefully, with not just people in Australia, but people overseas. People who are not necessarily in the right space at the time because they don't want to help. They think they're fine. What you see next is us working with people who know that they've got a difficulty, but they know that it's not fair on them, and how can they break away from that and become. Now, that came to me through a conversation, and that the term is neurodiversity. And I thought, I know these fancy terms. But when I explored it, I realized we've been working with these sorts of people already. People with ADHD, people with levels of autism, all different things with this, right? They hide away because they feel that they're not good enough. So we decided our big step forward now is to stop trying to convince so-called normal people they can do better, because they don't want to. They're caught in their world. We can't help them until they want to be helped. I want to go now and take our stuff towards those people who do want help, who do want to be able to be better because they know they're good. Anybody who has any disability or any description or anything at all which is less than what's supposed to be inverted commas normal has the feeling that they're not perfect and they're not good enough at some level. They've also got amazing talent and abilities. I want to help those people start to appreciate that and then start to become powerful in their own right. So that's our next focus we're going to do. And I'm even to the point of helping them write a book about it, about themselves at the end of the day. Right? Let's tell the world exactly who you were, what you did, and who you are now, and why you should be proud of yourself. That's something which has become very important to me in the last little while.
I like that a lot, Jeff, because you're literally giving people back to themselves. It's people that the current society and system has sidelined because it's not binary, either or, you know what I mean? And there's people that can actually function, be, do, and have a happier existence. But the world that they're faced with does not allow or support or encourage any of that.
No. And in fact, quite often they give medication to make sure it stays depressed. Or repressed, I should say, shouldn't I? Right? How many times is it, I know a kid who's about 11 who has been diagnosed with ADHD. I am not so sure. I suspect here's a kid who has got a very poor diet to start with. There's no question of that. There's a very poor diet in general, who is extremely intelligent, therefore becomes very bored at school very quickly because he's not getting the rewards he wants. So he starts to act out. When he gets in trouble for acting out, he gets very upset and very down on himself, doesn't like it, retreats, has his friends, but is not very social. Now, what's that kid going to be like if he takes that on into adulthood? What's going to happen to him? He's either going to be a genius or a criminal. The poor guy, he's got these limitations that he's had put on him. He's going to grow up with those limitations. We gave this kid, for example, a little project. We gave him something that wasn't working. He said, "Can you fix this? I wanted to use this." And I said, "Oh, yeah." And he just went to it. For the next hour or so, here's a kid who couldn't keep concentrating long enough to say hello, so to speak, who spent his time working on this particular thing, got it working, and was so proud and explained what he did. He just ticked it and played it. He got it. And he's like, I've done it several times since. So is he simply, this deficit disorder type rubbish to come out with? Or is he a person who hasn't yet found where he can get what he needs to what he wants for himself and he's good at? So, let's face it, we know what primary school's like. High school is not much better. Primary school says you must fit the buttonhole. You talk too much, therefore you're disruptive. You don't add up very well. You must be out of maths. And all this rubbish that the teachers put out there. Right? He is one of thousands of kids, very intelligent, very caught up in a world which is not serving him. Oh, he must have ADHD. He doesn't fit in. What a load of crap.
And
it's just
you've mentioned you're writing a book about it, so I can't wait to get my hands on that. And obviously, in the interest of time today, I can't thank you enough for everything that you're doing and the journey that you have shared with us, and also the insights that you're bringing to the table, because your story is just a testament to the power of, first of all, resilience, intentionality, and also just holistic growth. So thank you so much for all the work that you're putting out there.
Mate, it's my pleasure, and it's not going to stop. We love it. Simple as that.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching right now, thank you so much. And if Jeff's experiences and methodologies have resonated with you, I want you to consider how integrating such holistic approaches could actually enhance your own life. And, I will be putting in all the links so that you can connect with him in the show notes below. And if you found what we were talking about, enriching for yourself, why don't you also consider sharing this episode with someone who might actually benefit from Jeff's wisdom? And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more transformative content just like this. Until then, I want you to maybe embrace the journey that you're on and keep striving for prosperity in all aspects of your life. Bye for now.